Look, we've all done it. There's no shame in it. You're out there playing Power Rangers, TMNT, or Disney Princess, and before everyone starts, you know which character you want to be. And it don't matter if that character is anything like you at all. But when it comes to Encanto, you don't have to do that, because this movie will tell you who you are. Rise up, GG Nation, because it's time for Guidance Guide Friday, your weekly guidance lesson from your internet school counselor. And let's see how Encanto holds a mirror to all who watch it. Let's go! It's guidance time!
This is my family, a perfect constellation. So many stars and everybody gets to shine.
Even though Moana is the new hotness from Disney right now, and I actually did a video on Maui if you want to check that out later, Encanto definitely had its moment when it came out. Of course, the music was the star of the film, but I want to look at the characters to see what they say about us and our families. Fun fact, did you know that there are people who can figure out everything about you just by discovering if you're the oldest, youngest, or only sibling in your family? This is facts. Meet Alfred Adler, a psychologist and the father of birth order theory, which is, to really simplify it, it works to explain certain personality traits like being shy or confident and basing it whether you're the firstborn kid in your fam, the baby, or somewhere in between. Let's look at the three Madrigal sisters and see what they can show us about being the oldest, middle, and youngest siblings. And we're going to start with the oldest, Louisa.
I'm the strong one. I'm not nervous. I'm as tough as the crust of the earth is.
When we look at the powerhouse that is Louisa Madrigal, the first thing we notice is her incredible strength. Her gift allows her to essentially be Mr. Incredible, being able to carry way beyond her weight class with ease. But when we look at Louisa's personality, we start to see some connections between her and real-life firstborns. According to Adler, firstborn siblings tend to be very independent and self-reliant. They're more serious and responsible than their younger siblings, and they're also very high-achieving perfectionists who have confidence in their skills and abilities. Do we see any of that in Louisa? Let's take a look. With Louisa, while she's usually seen with other people around the village, we never see her asking for help for most of the movie, so there's that self-reliance. If you compare her to Mirabel and Isabella, she's definitely the more mature and serious one. Not that she's boring, but she's focused on the mission and doing what needs to be done. So let's check that one off. The fact that the entire village looks to her to do anything that requires heavy lifting means that she's earned that title of being reliable through performing her gift over and over again, which makes her high achieving. But it's here that we start to see the dark side of the firstborn. Because she's able to get the job done every single time, when her gift starts to dwindle and her strength starts ebbing away, she freaks out because to her, the job needs to be done perfectly or it's not done at all. She says all of that in surface pressure. Remember when she says this?
Under the surface, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can be of service.
That's the pressure she's singing about. The pressure to always be perfect, to always get the job done. Otherwise, who is she to anyone? And if you're the firstborn, this might be a reason why you connected to Louisa so much. You feel like you need to be number one, like you have to be the best and set the example for all time, because if you don't, then you've lost your purpose. But of course, none of this is true. Louisa learns this for herself. She figures out that she doesn't have to be the strong one all the time, that asking for help and giving herself a break is not a sign of weakness, but simply a reminder that she's human. If you're the older sibling, you may have more responsibility than the younger ones, and it may not always be fair. That doesn't mean you have to deal with it all by yourself. Ask for help when you can, and remember that even though when you're asked to set the example, that should never mean you need to be perfect. But what if you're not the oldest or the youngest? What if you're somewhere in between?
It just needed to be, and it let me be.
When looking at Miss Perfect herself, what we find with Isabella is actually a little different than the typical middle child. Let's take a look at what traits most middle kids have according to our boy Adler. They tend to be independent just like their oldest sibling, because they're older than somebody. They're also good with people, good with ending arguments with others, and they have goals and dreams for their lives. And Isabella shows some of those traits in Encanto. Homegirl is so independent that she seems to spend more time in her room alone with the plants than with others. And unless we're talking about Mirabel, she gets along with everybody and knows how to people. And when her and Mirabel try to patch things up and what else can I do, we find out she wants to do more than just make a perfect rose garden.
What could I do if I just knew it didn't need to be perfect?
This is actually something that makes Isabella different from the typical middle child. The meme around middle kids that they tend to get ignored between the oldest and the youngest, and they have to fight for attention to be noticed. But in Isabella's case, she's actually the Madrigal who's put on center stage. It's not Louisa who gets engaged to Guzman. Shoot, if we're looking for the Madrigal that gets ignored and overlooked in this house, we know the one, and it ain't Bella. With our Disney version of Poison Ivy, we see that even though you may be more likely to be a certain way due to things you can't control, that doesn't mean you have to stay that way. Isabella could have been a wallflower like most middle siblings tend to be, but she said bump that and decided to be bold and make a name for herself. And we could do the same thing. I'm not saying you should change your whole personality. You should love who you are at the end of the day. But if you want to pull a Miles Morales and not just follow the script that other people have for you,
I'm gonna do my own thing.
while still being true to yourself, Isabella shows you the way. But what if you're the little one? The baby? What does Mirabel possibly have to show you?
Up in my room, waiting on a miracle.
And now we bring up the baby of the three, Mirabel. The lone Madrigal without a gift and seemingly without any way to make a difference in the family that's slowly falling apart. What does she reveal about the last-born kid? Actually quite a bit, because most last-born kids tend to be outgoing people who think for themselves, but can be a little spoiled and attention-seeking. And that also goes for the only children out there. These traits can apply to you too. And though nobody would call Mirabel spoiled, I mean, Chick doesn't even have a gift. She's pretty much the opposite of spoiled in this fam. And though Abuela may saw otherwise, she really isn't stealing attention for herself. But there's one major part of the youngest child trope that not only applies to Mirabel, but is the reason for changing the entire family. She's rebellious. For most of her life, Mirabel was the ignored one in the family because she didn't have a superpower like everybody else. But when she saw the cracks in the house and the family starting to crack under it, she went against Abuela's instructions to just leave it alone. She didn't just talk about Bruno, she went and talked to him. She had the courage to do what no one else in the fam could, stand up to Abuela and show her the worth of everyone outside of their abilities. Being a rebel doesn't mean you break the rules and do whatever you want. Sometimes it means you see something that's wrong and you're the only one who tries to fix it. Sometimes it means you break bad rules in order to bring justice. And that's what Mirabel did as the youngest. She didn't wait for her older sisters to help her fix the problem. She saw herself as part of the solution. To the baby siblings out there, Mirabel shows that age doesn't matter when it comes to making a difference. It can be harder to be heard, and you might need others to help boost your voice, but you still matter in your family and you can still have an impact. Like Isabella, Mirabel didn't just do what was expected of her. She broke through the expectations to become the change her family needed. So which Encanto character are you? Do you see yourself as the sister that matches up to your birth order? For the oldest, are you the responsible leader like Luisa who feels like they have the world on their shoulders? For the middleborns, does Isabella's desire to be more resonate with you? And our youngest ones, does Mirabel's desire for change and say bump you to the way things have been done sound like you? Or perhaps you see different parts of you in different characters. That's okay, because we're not just a list of personality traits. We're all different and have different quirks. But the biggest takeaway from these three ladies is that change is possible. Luisa went from someone who put her self-worth in what she could do for others to learning how to give herself a break. Isabella got the chance to break out and become something more than the perfect one. And Mirabel, without even having a gift, she had the most important ability of all, being able to heal her family. We are more than our birth order or family title, because Encanto shows us that who we are and who we become is determined by one thing: us. Now it's your turn. What else can we see about families from this amazing film? Let's see it in the comments. Also, don't forget to do the YouTube thing. Like and subscribe to give this video a boost in the algorithm. And if you need some more Disney magic, come check out this video on Mulan to see how she became every obstacle the world threw at her. See you there. Guidance Guy out.